So I just crossed over the bridge between the Alentejo and Algarve regions of Portugal. The river and the bridge mark the border there. And behind me is the bus stop where I was dropped off 1 year ago yesterday to start the Rota Vicentina, or last year's version of it. I've done 88 kilometers so far this year, with about the same again to go over the next 4 days. Another wet night. I'm carrying lots of wet gear. I've tried drying it out this morning, but just couldn't wait too much longer. I had a really lazy, slow start just to try and get things dried, but it's not really happening. So I'll find a rock at some point on a beach somewhere and get it all out later on and see if I can dry it out. I love this mural. So I'm back with the high-tech graphics. So just to describe it one more time, Lagos is where I got the train to from Faro. I then took the bus to Porto Covo. Day one of walking was Porto Covo to Via Nova de Mil Fontes here. Second day was to Almagrave. Third day was Zambujeira do Mar, and then yesterday was the walk down to the campsite Odeceixe. So today back out to the coast and then down through Rogil and then out to a campsite called Serrao, which is about here, so just short of Aljezur. The next day will be to Arrifana. There's a really short version, or there's a long version around the coast. We'll see how we're feeling. And then the final night will be in Carrapateira. And then the last day of walking, which is Thursday, down to Via de Bispo. That afternoon I'm getting the bus from here back to Lagos. Overnight in Lagos, train back for a flight on Friday morning. Sounds very simple. So as usual, not quite sure how much you can see on the GoPro, but yeah, a huge gorge that heads inland here, and we've got to walk inland around the end of this, and we rejoin the coast a couple of kilometers down that direction. Oh, there it is. That's the line that indicates 100 kilometers of walking so far. So as you just saw from the sign, this is part of Eurovelo 1, or the Atlantic Coast cycle route, which runs from the bottom of Spain, I think, the bottom of Portugal somewhere, up to the top of Norway along the Atlantic coast. So Portugal, Spain, France, a bit of the UK, a bit of Ireland, and it actually runs past our front door before heading off back over to the UK, Scotland, and then up around mainland Europe, and as I say, eventually up into Scandinavia and Norway. But I love the idea that somebody will ride along this road and keep going, following those signs, and come past our house. How cool is that? And if I was 25 years younger, maybe I'd have a go at that myself. This is Rogil. There's not too much to recommend it other than a couple of supermarkets. So tonight's dinner and tomorrow morning's breakfast. Tourist information office is closed. So I remember this road from last year. It is officially the dullest part of the Rota Vicentina, I'm here to tell you. Yeah, this time last year when I walked this was my first day, and it was right about this spot where I threw my pack down with a proper ump and thought, what the hell am I doing? The sun was baking down. I've been on this road, I mean this road's probably only done a couple of kilometres out of the town, but it just feels like it goes on forever because it's long and straight and flat and boring. This year I've got headphones, I'm listening to King Creosote sing about death and being lonely, and yeah, the sun's not quite as strong as it was last year, so yeah, all in all, I think, you know, it goes to show it's how you approach these situations mentally. It's not the terrain, it's not the road, it's what's in your head. There's deep for for a Monday afternoon. So this is Sarau campsite near Aljezur. As you can see, they're big on plane trees around here, not so big on grass, with yeah, almost none at all. Actually, over the far side there, over the windy side, there is a bit more grass perhaps, but yeah, not a lot. This is the surface we're dealing with. Tent pegs are kind of 50-50. They'll either go in like this one, or they won't go anywhere like that one. But I think we'll be. I think it's in far enough to survive the night. There's a swimming pool I'm going to go and investigate now, and then get some dinner on. So that was Odeceixe to just short of Aljezur, about 2 kilometres short, the Sarau campsite. Come on, the Sarau campsite's fantastic, huge place, swimming pool, loads of facilities, but out of season it feels like there's more staff here than there are actual punters. Those that are here are kind of dotted around this huge area and really well spread out. Again, as you saw earlier, there's no grass, it's just kind of rock and stone, with plane trees or eucalyptus, whatever they are, kind of towering up above. I wouldn't like to be here in a windy day, because you know the bark and bits and pieces that fall off these trees must cause some problems, I would have thought. Yeah, so today was, I don't know, being kind, I guess you call it, a transition day. So the first third of it was great around Odeceixe, walking up the river valley to the coast, and then along the coast to begin with. But then the last kind of 2/3 of the walk are across farmland, and yeah, not particularly exciting. So on to Arrifana tomorrow. There's a choice of routes. There's another 22k around the coast, which I did last year and is great, and I should probably do that. But there is always the bailout option. Once I get to Aljezur, I can choose to go a kind of direct route, which is only about 11 or 12 kilometres from there. So a total of 14 or 15 for the day. So there is that option. So what time is it? It's 10 to 8. I've got a queue of YouTube videos to watch. I think there's some football commentary on as well, so might do a bit of that. But otherwise, it's bed and sleep pretty early, and yeah, up early tomorrow and crack on again. Anyway, see you in the morning. So that was Camping Sorau, the most expensive campsite so far at €9. But excellent. Swimming pool, shop, laundry, fantastic shower facilities, all that kind of good stuff. No grass, but hey, can't have everything. So this morning off to Aljezur, which is about 2.5–3 kilometres, and then around the coast round to Arrifana. I'm going to take the long route. I had a look at some pictures from last year, and I remember there's a couple of walks along beaches which yeah, I don't really want to miss out on those, because they're really good fun. So I'm in the castle at Aljezur. You can see it around me. This is the 10th century castle that was built during the Muslim occupation. I just read this on the board down there, obviously. It dates back to kind of Bronze Age, when people first set up some sort of encampment up the top here, and that's been uncovered as they've been digging away at the ruins here. Aljezur town is across on the hill opposite, across the valley there. It looks fantastic. It's got a bit of a reputation for being some kind of, I think people come here as surfers and then just kind of drop out and stay here forever. So this kind of aging hippie population. Hello to all the viewers in Aljezur. Let me know if that's true or not. So yeah, plan next is to walk down the hill and off down the valley there. That's Arrifana, the wrong side of Arrifana, off in the distance. So I'm going to walk down there and then around the headland and camping over the other side of here. Sorry, not camping, hosteling the other side of here overnight. I understand why you might put bells on cows on the Swiss mountainsides where they can wander off into the distance, but this field's about 200 metres long by 75 metres wide. I shouldn't think you're going to lose too much in there. So I'm just plodding up what must be the longest climb of the hike so far. I've got the sea off in the distance there. Aljezur are back in the valley down there. In the strange way that your brain works when you're doing this sort of thing, especially when you're walking on your own long distances, I was thinking about when I watch YouTube videos and guys are out hiking, they never adjust the rucksack when they're walking uphill. So these straps on the top here, they're not to make your pack look more complex or technical. They're actually so that you can, as you're walking uphill, you can loosen those straps off so the load continues to sit kind of upright and doesn't lean forward as you're leaning forward on the hill, and so doesn't kind of weigh down on top of you. You can stand it up on your hips so that it's upright, and then obviously once you get to a flat piece of ground or you're heading back downhill, pull the straps tight again and bring the load back in towards your back. Now nobody will admit to not knowing that. Nobody seems to, certainly on the videos I've been watching lately, nobody seems to do that, so top tip. Another fantastic beach, another kilometre of golden sand that can't get down to, unfortunately. There probably is a way, but I guess it's pretty sketchy, not for a guy with a big rucksack who's got a couple of days still of walking ahead, so yeah, I can just admire it from a distance. The Rota Vicentina is actually made up of 3 different trail types, probably more than that, but as far as I understand it, there's the Fisherman's trail, which is kind of like the thing along the edge of the cliff there, which is the old paths that the fishermen used to take from the villages out to the fishing spots where they'd fish off the cliffs. And so those trails are all kind of zigzagging backwards and forwards along the edge of the cliffs. There's the historical way, which is further inland, connects up towns, points of interest, historical sites and what have you. And then around each one of the towns or villages that the route passes through, there's usually a looped trail or two, kind of one north, one south of the town, some of which will overlap with the main Rota Vicentina route. So yeah, I mean, you can walk this how you like. I'm doing bits of this historical way and bits of the fisherman's trail. I'm also doing it north to south, but there's no reason why you can't do it south to north. In fact, I said last year that if I did it again, I'd do it south to north. The reason being, if you look south, you're kind of looking into the sun all day, and you've got this kind of mist, this haze, where the sea spray is lit up by the sun. Whereas if you look north, it's a lot less hazy, and you actually get better views. Yeah, and if you go on the website of the volunteer group that organises the trails or looks after the trails, they'll tell you that you can walk it in either direction. So back down there behind me is 2 kilometres of Praia do Coelho, another fantastic Portuguese pronunciation. Yeah, as you can see, beautiful golden sandy beach, but there's no way down to it. These cliffs are 65 metres high at this point. Pretty much unspoiled apart from plastic and pallets and crap that's coming out of the sea. But yeah, beautiful spot. It'd be great to get down there somehow. I like my house plants, but I'd say this one's ridiculous. Good morning, welcome to day 7. I'm walking from Arrifana, which is the place behind me, to Carrapateira, which is about another 23 kilometre day. Last night I was in the hostel, the HI destination hostel in Arrifana, which was great. Got a burger and a beer. Last time I stayed there, they had some electrical problem, which meant that there was no cooking, no bar, and all the locks on the rooms were screwed up. So I ended up staying in one of the rooms of one of the staff. She was a 19-year-old Danish girl who turned up at 2 o'clock in the morning, getting back in from a party, to find me sleeping in her room, which didn't go down ever so well. But yeah, much better stay this year. Arrifana's a well-known surfing spot, and so the hostel there and all the other hostels are full of long-haired, good-looking young folks. Way too cool for old fellas like me. But then I wasn't the oldest person in the hostel, and I was doing that sort of stuff at their age, and I'm still doing it now. So what does that tell you? Yeah, it's a good spot. It's a nice atmosphere. Every nation you can think of, and all speaking English, of course. The common language of international travel, which means it's lucky for me. So as you'll have seen along the way, I've been geocaching. If you've got no idea what geocaches are, there's more than 3 million geocaches around the planet, and they're usually a physical container that can range from a little kind of micro up to a ammunition box or a oil barrel, or and there's some really kind of creative and imaginative ideas for how to hide these things, and they're often in cities and in pretty much plain sight, but unless you're looking for it, you're unlikely to find it. So these things are dotted all over the world along this coastline, because it's a well waymarked path. There are hundreds of these geocaches, and I've been doing sort of 2 or 3 a day, just to well, for a couple of reasons. It looks good on the map, where you can see a line of these things kind of running down the coastline, but it can break up the monotony. If you're on a dull bit of road, you can fire up the app, see where the nearest geocache is, and yeah, I won't usually go out of my way for it, but if it's on the route, then I'll stop and sign the log and log it in the app. I'm surprised by the amount of people that do it. There are millions of people worldwide that do it and are really keen on it, and then there's everybody else who has never heard of it and knows nothing about it. I only started it, I don't know, probably 9 months ago, something like that. And I think I've done 160 caches so far. But I've done them in Poland, in Germany, in Portugal, in Ireland, the UK. Yeah, and it just adds another dimension. Often the description of the geocache will give you some information about the locality. So if it's an historical site, or there's an interesting wildlife or natural feature, the description of the cache will tell you something about that. So yeah, geocaching. So the forest fires from the summer haven't been too obvious on the trail so far, but just into an area now that's obviously on the edge of where the fire's reached. Not completely destroyed, and there are some green shoots of recovery, but yeah, pretty desperate. So I was telling you earlier about geocaches, and something I forgot to mention is they're kind of rated for difficulty to find their size and that sort of thing. So there's one in this triangulation pillar just here, which is easy to find but more difficult to get to. So let me show you where it is. So for reasons I don't entirely understand myself, just come straight down here to get to the beach, just so it means I've got this stretch all to myself. So in about 1 kilometre the trail actually comes down the cliff and joins on, so I've got that little bit to enjoy. I just hope I got the tide times right and that's going out and not in, because if it's coming in I am stuffed. So, just past the 150 kilometre mark. I'm still thinking about the kind of dilemma of camping or hosteling come guest housing, if that's such a thing. So obviously I've carried more gear than most other people. So there's one other French couple that have camped along the way, and I've seen them at pretty much every stop, and usually once or twice through the day as well. Otherwise, people are travelling pretty light with just a day pack and then having their baggage transferred from place to place. So if I think about it, there's probably the sleeping bag, sleeping mat, the tent, and maybe the bigger rucksack. It probably adds up to 5 kilos, something like that, of additional weight because I was camping. I probably would have bought the stove and what have you for making a brew along the way, even if it had been doing day walks, I think. So that additional 5 kilos times by 150 kilometres, you know, I felt it this morning when I woke up. It took a little while to get moving, that's for sure. So yeah, I mean, there's been that dilemma. Obviously it's been a lot cheaper to camp. Campsites are $450 to $850 a night, whereas the guest houses were €30 up to, I don't know, 45, something like that. So there's that to consider, but also the physical challenge of carrying all this stuff. So yeah, the dilemma continues. Would I do it again if I was going to do it next year? Would I camp again? I'm pretty sure I probably would. You'll be on the list again. Good morning. It's 8 AM on my final day. I'm leaving Carrapateira behind me and I'm heading to Vila de Bispo to catch a bus back to Lagos. The bus is not until 4 o'clock this afternoon, but yeah, didn't want to miss it, number one. And again, there's a spot along the way of this section of coast that I really want to stop and spend some time and enjoy. It's my last day, obviously, on the walk, and that spot's actually the last time I'll see the coast before I head inland to the town that I'm heading for. So, had a terrible night's sleep last night. I slept in a bed that was like made of marshmallow and felt like it was trying to, I don't know, absorb me somehow, smother me. If you ever saw, what was it called, Nightmare on Elm Street, where the bed kind of eats the teenager, it felt like the bed was doing that to me all night. So I woke up off and on through the night, and yeah, just didn't sleep very well at all. So yeah, a bit of a shame that I don't feel quite as fresh for today, but yeah, well, no choice but to keep on plodding. Well, that's it really. There's about another 8 kilometres of walking into town, into Vila de Bispo, and the bus stop that's going to take me back to Lagos. But yeah, that's all heading inland across this kind of scrubland that I'm on at the moment, on this gravel track, which I can see stretching off into the distance. So yeah, I've turned away from the sea now, and that's the last of it. But that last spot is among my favourite places on the planet, I'm sure. It's just the way the sea comes in between those two kind of walls of rock. It's funneled in there and then kind of all churns up and bounces off the walls and sort of smashes back into each other, and it does that all day every day, and it's done it for millions of years. It's just incredible, and such a special spot. So just in terms of a bit of a wrap up, it's all finished a little bit abruptly. I got to Villa de Bispo, and as I walked into town, walked to check out where the bus stop was that I'd need to be at 2 hours and 20 minutes later. There's actually a bus standing there for Lagos. So I ran up to it, jumped on, and off we went. So didn't have any chance to sort of have a look around the town or kind of think about the fact that I'd finished the walk, and that was it. I literally took my rucksack off, threw it into the bus, got on, and here I am back in Lagos. €3.95 by the way, that journey, which took about an hour. Just amazingly cheap but efficient transport here. So yeah, the walk was spectacular. It was everything I'd hoped for. Challenging, carrying the gear I was carrying, which I know I keep talking about, but I didn't do it the easy way, but survived the challenge. Walked 175 kilometres carrying that stuff, camping out, stayed in some great places, ate some pretty good food. And people might think, yeah, well, it's a bit fancy, going to Portugal in November. It's a bit flash, but to put it into some perspective, if I add up all the accommodation, so 8 nights that I've stayed so far, and 1 more night tonight, if I add up the cost of all that accommodation, it's cheaper than the hotel that I'll stay in tomorrow night in Dublin, and that isn't a fancy hotel by any means, but we're in Dublin tomorrow for my wife's birthday. I'm meeting her in Dublin. That hotel is going to cost more than all the accommodation put together for this trip so far. The flight to get here was €12.99. The burger I ate last night was $13.50. So that means it's cheaper to get here than the price of a burger. And then I've lived pretty much on bread, cheese, ham and sardines. So, which is not unusual. That's pretty much what I live on back home as well. But what I'm saying is that the whole cost of this wasn't expensive. Yeah, I've had adventure, I've had sunshine. You know, I've seen new places, tried new things. It's all good. So, you know, these are achievable. They're within reach, and I encourage everybody to get out and find their own adventure.